Hello, my name is Bill Haley, and this is for Haley 2024 The Movement's Government Reform Ideas. Now, this video is going to be on the full foreign protection system. So, I'm proposing a new constitution for the United States of America, for all the states, and even the localities. Every current government will have this same constitution, the same CRA structure. Be labeled either local, state, or the one federal. So, there's a lot. I will do a quick overview, but I'm going to try to maintain a real quick overview so I can get right to the foreign protection system. I have much longer overviews of the full Constitution, full revision of the whole structure of government. So it's a radical change, but it's a very modest proposal. Modest proposal meaning that government's not going to grow. It's actually going to go to a competitive governing agencies. So it's a significant difference, but it's a modest proposal because it's going to give us a lot more liberty, freedom, and a lot less government. But if you want more government, you can choose a governing agency, a competitive governing agency that you want. But we need to protect all of America from foreign foes. So let's go through the whole system real quick, and then I'll do a quick focus on the foreign protection system. So it's a foreign protection system. This is a shorter version of it without all the clauses. So just understand that I'm abbreviating this a little bit. I'll be doing other videos with all the clauses, and everything's on my website, by the way. So we separate all government power into 30 sectors with top level elected leadership per sector, different elected leadership. No one person is in charge of more than one sector. So if you're in the legislative, executive, judicial branches of one sector, you cannot be in another sector. So the top person regulating insurance is different than the people regulating environmental protection. People regulating the military is different than law enforcement. People regulating the courts is different than education. I think you get my drift there. We separate all the government power. Nobody's in charge of more than one sector at a time, so we really have specialization there. And then within each sector, and this is at every level of government, we still have the 3 levels of government. Within every sector, you have roughly 12 distinct competitive regulatory agencies. These are the competitive governing agencies. CRAs are competitive regulatory agencies, competitive governing agencies, and they send representatives up to the sector board level, which is here, and that's made up of representatives of the CRAs for a monopolized regulation when it's needed. In the foreign protection system, 5 of the sectors, 4 of the 5 sectors will be at the sector board level because you're talking about Commander-in-Chief and the diplomats, the accountability, and the funding mechanism. So before one of them, the military, we'll get to it in a minute, is not. It's more free enterprise. So, but let's go over that. Now, these are full governmental systems with executive, legislative, and judicial. So every CRA and the sector board all have all 3 branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. So, and the rating system is going to give high quality information from a wide variety of perspectives. And every every sector has a full rating system, which is comprises of 12 different rating agencies. You have to select one that you agree with the most. So every citizen picks who's going to be regulating them and how they're going to be rated, or what rating agency is going to get their weighted vote and their money and their support. So it's all important, but this is the full overall structure, but it's highly important to understand for the whole system. So you select your CRA per sector, and then you vote within your sector, within your CRA, within the membership of your CRA, for the leadership of that CRA, and the representatives. So the CRA is the base of everything. Everything in this Constitution is made to make the CRA the most powerful. This is made to make competitive regulatory agencies, competitive governing agencies, the base of everything. This is 90% of the Constitution. Everything else, from the sector board, the parent sector board, the rating systems, is made to enhance and hold up and support the CRA being the main thing. And let's keep on going. The Constitution. Section 1 is going to have a citizenship. Section 2, general laws. Section 3, bylaws, which are internal governance of a organization. Every organization within in the CRA structure is going to have internal governance, internal rules of how they manage, the separation of executive, legislative, and judicial powers, the memberships, the fees, the everything else. Federal, state, and local, how we deal with that. Original authority, which level of government or which level of the CRA structure has the top level authority. So we'll go over some of that. Supermajority, if it's at the sector board level, which is a representative monopolized governance, then it has to have a 70%. Most of the stuff is going to be at the the CRA level, which is really the top, but at the CRA level. But in the foreign protection system, 4 of the 5 sectors will be at the sector board level, and that's the representatives. So most of the things that they have to do outside of regular organizational stuff will be the 70% supermajority. The parent sector board, how that's structured. Sector boards, there are 30 of them per level of government, per CRA structure. That's going to be important to understand how that's structured. The CRAs, again, this is the structure of everything. The rating system, I have a video on that. Everything's on my website. It's really important. Again, high amount of information from a wide variety of perspectives, high quality information. Taxation, everything that government currently does, we're going to the free enterprise system or competitive governance, but we still have to have funding. So just because we go away from the current government system doesn't mean all the things they don't need to be paid for. Roads still need to be paid for, the military still needs to be paid for, law enforcement still needs to be paid for. It gets paid for differently through competitive governance or within the free enterprise system, but it still has to be paid for. So we have a section here, taxation. Debt, we have put too much debt onto America, but when we sell off government assets, we're going to literally bring in tens of trillions of dollars of money when we sell it off. It might not pay off all the debt, but we work out everything in there. I have a full video on that. Pockets of freedom is important to the foreign protection system because it's our main immigration and foreign policy positions. States partial acceptance per sector, that's to help get it passed. You can look at that video in that section. The separation of responsibilities and authorities into 30 sectors. We kind of went over that a little bit. Let's go over the 30 real quick. We get rid of all government welfare. We go to a charity system. We have a funding mechanism, and we'll have videos on that already. The foreign protection system, that's what we're going to spend most of our time on this video. I'll touch base with that near the end, or when we start, after I do the full Constitution. Violent crime mitigation system, we break it into 5. I still have to do some videos on that. There's a lot of overview videos, a lot more videos from a year ago. There's a lot of videos out there that touches on this. But again, everything's on my website, so look at that. These will be other sectors within the CRA structure, and you can just read them. I'm not going to take the time right now. I have a lot more videos out there that really go through each one of these, and more of those videos are going to come up between February and probably go well into June of 2021. That's when I'm doing that right now. Right now it's early May. Okay. Competitive regulatory agencies is the base of everything. These are full governmental systems, executive, legislative, and judicial. Highly important to keep that in mind. And you select your CRA first, and then they govern you. They regulate, they govern, and they send representatives. These are at the city, state, and federal level. So incredibly important that all those things are kept in your brain, and when you're thinking about the structure here. Okay, we have 5 sectors in the foreign protection system, and here they are. I'm going to list them first, and then we're going to go through everything. Again, we're not going through every clause in the Constitution, and I picked out about half of them to go through it. Diplomatic foreign policies. This is the diplomats. Commander-in-Chief, this is all the commanders in the military. Anybody who's an officer, not the enlisted, but the officer corps. And that's, they're strictly the officer corps. Separate representative bodies governing them. And so every one of these will have a governing body. Not only in the CRA level, but most of these are going to be at the sector board level. Military corporation, that's where it's going to, the military forces are going to be. We're going to go over how that's going to be free enterprise. Again, we'll discuss about accountability because there's a lot more accountability, even a lot better than what we currently have in today's system. Military capability system, that's a funding mechanism for it. We'll go over that. Military Authorization Agency, that they authorize anybody with inherent power. We're going to discuss that. So, original authority at the sector board level. Now, I think it's 6 of my sectors of the 30 are at the original authority at the sector board level. 4 of those are within this foreign protection system. And the military will be free enterprise. So let's go back over here. So the sector board level is the representatives, monopolized representatives over everybody. All the CRAs send representatives up, and those representatives are going to be the most powerful because these are the full diplomats. These are the commander-in-chiefs. This is the military capability system, the funding mechanism. And this is also the military authorization agency. This is an accountability sector where they had to authorize anybody with inherent government power. So we're going to go over all four of those in more detail in a second. But we have to understand that the CRA level is for the military corporations, not the sector board level. So very little at the sector board level for the military. A lot of accountability. They can't just do whatever they want to, but there's a lot of accountability within here, and we'll discuss that. Okay, law enforcement must faithfully enforce immigration and other DFP, the diplomat laws, on a normal basis. So that's just out there. We'll go over that more when I concentrate on just the sector, the diplomat sector. The responsibilities of mission and the mission of space exploration is in Sector 8's jurisdiction. Basically, NASA's built into this same system. Current government infrastructure and assets will transition to the free enterprise system. All government assets, including every military base at the Pentagon, the State Department, everything is going to be sold into the free enterprise system or to the CRAs, and that's going to help pay down the debt. This is going to bring in tens of trillions of dollars. No doubt about it. There's a lot of money built into a aircraft carrier, a base, NASA, all the stuff that's been accumulating throughout the years and the decades. All that's going to be sold off to pay off the debt, and it's going to go back into the military, obviously, but it's going to be owned separately by CRAs, by military corporations, individuals, there's individual companies and stuff like that. But it's all accounted for, and everything's accounted. There's a lot of accountability in everything. So, Sector 6, diplomatic foreign policy. The diplomats. This is going to be the head of the State Department type of thing. The top executive leader on there, you can call him the president if you wish to, but every one of these will have, quote unquote, a president. But this one is probably going to be called the Secretary of State because that's what we're used to. But that's going to be the top elected leader. No more president over top of that, unless you want to call this one the president. I'm not going to get into names on this one, but these are the people who negotiate with foreign nations. So the guy who's in charge of the top diplomat, he's not the same guy or girl. He's not the same guy as the top commander-in-chief. Different person. And that's highly important to understand. The guys in charge of the funding, and we're talking the legislative branches too. We have a full legislative branch, representatives of the people. For funding is different than accountability versus space exploration. Not space exploration. The diplomats and the commander-in-chief. Every one of them have the full governmental system. Executive, legislative, and judicial. So let's keep on going. But this diplomats will be the diplomats. They'll negotiate with foreign nations. And anything they do needs a 70%. So if they want to declare war, it takes 70%. So let me state it very clearly. Representatives of 70% of the people. Highly important that you understand that, because we do representatives totally different than what we currently do representatives. Our current House of Representatives should not be called representatives because they're representing 700, 800,000 people, all with different viewpoints. Representatives should be representing somebody's interests, somebody's opinions. So a socialist and a capitalist, one person cannot represent them both because they have to either pick socialist or capitalist. Anti-war, pro-war, you cannot one representative cannot represent both of those. So everybody picks the CRA to be their representative. It could be a pro-war or anti-war representatives going up to this body. So, but it takes 70% to declare war, or less than a declaration of war, but an authorization of use of force, or it doesn't have to be you have to go and demolish this country. You can have a lesser authorization where they tell you to go do certain things, but not a full-scale war where you're demolishing everything. That's not for this discussion right now. Okay, a 40% can take away any authorization. So it really takes a heavy majority to go do things out there into the world. It takes a lot of consensus, whatever, I can't say the word now, I'm sorry. It takes a lot of people, a high majority of the people to go out there and do it. Okay, the diplomat sector must establish broad rules for military engagement regarding military forces outside of American borders. But the detailed rules of military engagement must be set by Sector 7. It's an internal thing, but it's important to understand that the big overbroad things of military engagement rules are set by the diplomats, but the hand-to-hand combat, the when to fire, when not to fire, individually will be at the Commander-in-Chief sector. The DFP sector board must meet and take action approving or rejecting military force outside of American borders within 48 hours. It's a highly important thing that we bring the diplomats in to vote. Do we continue with the war or not? So if a military engagement happened because somebody attacked or whatever happened, the diplomats have to come back and they have to say yes or no right away. If they say no, we have to do an orderly retreat, and it might not be the best thing, but we have to realize, why are we putting our people in danger out there if we're not going to back them up? A totally different policy positions, but we have to understand who's in charge. The diplomats are in charge of declaring war or not. The Commander-in-Chief is in charge of, once they do declare war, to go take action, take military action to do what they need to do. And this is a separation of authorities. So the same guy is not, the head guy for the diplomats is not the same guy as the head for the Commander-in-Chief. It's highly important to understand that. Okay, the diplomats board must set immigration laws. There's more involved in that. I cut a couple of those out. Watch another video on when I do that within the next week or two. The Commander-in-Chief sector. These are just the commanders. These are the anybody who's an officer in there. They're within this sector. So it's probably not a huge dollar amount, but because the military itself is going to take the bulk of the dollars. You have the enlisted men and you have the weapons system. The Commander-in-Chief that's this personnel. I mean, maybe a little bit of office rental space, but we're talking the bulk of that money is paying personnel. Okay, the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief sector is to command the military. So again, they are just personnel. They don't have equipment. They have access to everything the military does. So they definitely have access to all the equipment that they need to do what they to fight a war. Okay, highly important. If there's a threat on American soil, the Commander-in-Chief has unhampered authority, and they must take action, military action, to fight back a threat on American soil. So that's that. No vote is needed. Now, if he goes outside of his authority, he does something where everybody says no, there's no threat, but he takes action. It's not likely. However, there's a lot of accountability because they can take the authorization agency can take his power away in an instant. The CIC sector, with a 40% vote, can take his authorization away. So there's a lot of accountability. But in a normal situation, somebody attacks Florida, they attack Alaska, they attack like 9/11 on New York and D.C. The Commander-in-Chief has unhampered authority to push that back, at least to the edges of our borders on American soil. And then hopefully the diplomats will allow us to go in where we need to root out where their bases are, like Afghanistan for 9/11 or whatever. Now, it's a totally different issue whether they stay there for 20 years or not, but that's not this discussion. But the diplomats will make that decision. The CIC leaders only have authorization for utilizing military forces outside American borders properly sanctioned by Sector 6. So Sector 6 which is the diplomats, they have to give authorization for the CIC leaders to command the military out there. Obviously, if we have a base over in Germany or Japan or wherever, then that is Sector 6 authorizing that. But they don't have authority to go conduct a war, but they have military rules of military engagement. What happens if this happens or that happens when we have a base in Japan or Germany or France or wherever we have bases? So we have rules of engagement that the CIC the Sector 6 has to make those if we have it over there, have a base or personnel over there. So military corporations, this is where the free enterprise comes in. This is where the heavy bulk, probably over 90% of the money is going to be spent for this. And that's going to be free enterprise. What we're going to do here, and let me just talk about it. Let me read this first. The purpose of the military corporation sector is to produce a military capable of defending America. Okay, let me go through the slides that I have for it, then I'm going to talk. Okay, the military personnel and military forces must be in qualified military corporations called an MC. So these are designated as an official military corporation. These are private sector. A lot of controls over it, don't get me wrong, but the private sector military corporations with a board of directors, stocks. It has to be stocks where any American citizen can own stocks. Let me go on before I go too far. Then I do want to talk about how that's going to work. A qualified MC, military corporation, is defined by an MC having at least 1% and no more than 10% of the total of all military capabilities as defined by Sector 9, the funding mechanism. Okay, so what we're doing, let me go through the other slides real quick, then I want to come back and talk. So we cannot have a military corporation too big that it's 50% of the whole military. The top is 10%, and it has to be at least 1%. Now you can have some subcontractors down there being 0.1%, or you can have a 10-person group or a 100-person group or whatever with military capabilities as subcontractors selling their services to one of the big military corporations. But we have a system. Each qualified MC must be publicly owned corporation. To start in the transition, we're going to create 50 MC, put roughly the equal amount of military capabilities and military assets into each one. They still have to be sold to these people. They have to buy them. Dollar cost average over 8 years, I believe I have it, 1% a month. But we have a transition for that. MCs must belong to CRA, so just because you're an MC, you still have to belong to the CRA structure. That's not going to change, and that's still going to be important. An MC's product is supplying military capabilities to America, and every MC and CRA controls attaining the military training the military, and maintaining military forces. Okay, the CIS, the Commander-in-Chief sector commands the active missions of MCs. So, MCs cannot use their forces for whatever they want to. Their product is providing military capabilities to America, and the only people that can control them are the Commander-in-Chief, which is a separate representative body. They cannot use it on their own. A lot of controls. Okay. This is important. Every military member and every member of sectors, all 5 of the Foreign Protection System sectors, must pledge allegiance to America. Highly important now. To the Constitution, to the diplomat leader, to the CIC, Commander-in-Chief leader, the MAA leader, which is the military authorization. They have to authorize anybody with inherent government power, with each a distinct set of authorities. So every military member must know exactly what authority every one of these, all 3 of these leaders have. Highly important. And so they have to pledge allegiance, which means there's a lot of accountability within that. And there's people, everybody's going to have a boss. Nobody doesn't have a boss in this. Everybody is controlled. Every military corporation, because they have such power, there's controls around it. Okay, let's just talk about the free enterprise system for a minute. I'll stay right there. So we're going to create about 50 companies, and they're going to have military corporations. They're going to have the tanks. They're going to have the aircraft carriers. They're going to have the satellites. They're going to have the personnel, and the commanders-in-chief are going to be outside of that, but they're going to be integrated within it. But technically, they're going to be outside. They have a different pay structure. They're not part of the military system, but they're integrated throughout and they're commanded. The military corporations cannot do missions on their own. They can go training. They can do live action. Live action training where it's authorized and everything. But it's highly important to understand that they have the capabilities. Now, how they're going to get paid, I'll do that on the military capability system, but based off their capabilities. So they're responsible for gaining the assets, the boats, the ships, the battleships, the planes, the F-18s, F-21s, whatever. I don't know if it's 21 now or not. F-16s, F-18s, I know those are out there. What's that newest one? I forget. All the tanks, all the personnel, everything that the military has. So they're responsible, and the personnel as well, not the officers, but the personnel, and to do all the stuff. So, and then they get paid based off, big hunks of money. We're talking about $1 trillion budget here. Now, the $1 trillion budget is 5% of GDP. Now, 20% of that is going to be off in escrow. Probably 10-15% of that's going to be paying for the commander-in-chiefs, paying for the military authorization, paying for the diplomats, some foreign aid and the like. So maybe $500-600,000 or $500 or $600 billion will be going to this, and then that budget is split up between planes assets and boat assets and nuclear assets and Marines on the ground and armies on the ground troops and all the military vehicles. There's a lot of assets. They're responsible for gaining those assets, and if they can gain more capabilities than the next corporation, they gain market share. So that's where the free enterprise system is going to come in. Is everybody's going to try to say, I have better capabilities. In the military capability system, which is Sector 9 here, they're going to have a system that says we're going to spend, let's say, 10% of money on the airplanes, 10% on the Navy, 10% on the nuclear, 10% on the... I know I got those numbers way off, but you know what I'm talking about. And then within each one, different corporations are going to compete for that budget. Every military corporation is probably going to have an aircraft carrier battle group type of thing. They're going to have Marines, and they're going to have Army troops. They're going to have all these people. And the better trained they are, the more capable they are. The more weapons they have with them, the more capable they are. And the capability is going to come with money. And it's a set number of dollars, and all the corporations are competing against it. So if somebody does too much and they're not getting as much money, they know when to pull back and allow more of that budget to go to the existing. So it uses a rule of prices significantly. It's not 100% free in market because they can't go out there and gain more customers. Their customer is America, and America has a set budget. But it is using the rule of prices and significant free enterprise benefits. Let's keep on going. Okay, the purpose of the military capability system is to fund the military, and they get 5% of GDP. I'm not going to go into all this right now. I'll do that on the separate video. But it's 4% for the federal, 1% for 4% of GDP to the federal, 1% to the states, and that could change a little bit. That's not set in stone, but I want every state to have capabilities as well. So they're going to have to collect money. And this is going to be sales taxes. So the state level, Sector 24, which is dealing with sales tax, they're going to collect the money. And then they're going to distribute the money. So 20% of the MCS funding must stay in escrow. Oh, that's for major wars. So we need an escrow for that. And it takes a 70% vote of the diplomats to release those funds. Or if it's on American soil, the parent sector board can release those funds. The funding mechanism funds all the rating systems. Every one of these sectors has a full rating system giving high quality information from a wide variety of perspectives. That's going to root out a lot of self-dealing. It's going to root out a lot of fraud and abuse. And those things are going to be highly important because information and sunlight really takes a lot of fraud and abuse and pushes it out because the sunlight shown and people's making decisions. There's a lot of decisions people are making. Okay, so they get funded is what I'm trying to say. And okay, they must set up a funding arrangement designed to produce a suitable military force. I was just talking about that, and basically the corporations, they say they're developing a better boat, a better airplane, a better soldier, or a soldier with better equipment or whatever. So if you have a whole bunch of people that are not well trained, they go out there with some muskets, and you're going to say, they don't have hardly any capabilities. We don't want to even put those people out there. We're going to make a decision that they are very low capable, and they're going to have such low funding that's not even going to get funded. Nobody's going to fund anybody, a little ragtag team with muskets, with no extra equipment or whatever, no tanks, no vehicles, whatever, and thinking that's going to get some funding. No, the better funded, the better trained, the better equipped people will get funded more. So it's important to understand what we're trying to think here. Okay, Sector 9's funding of MCs must be proportional to an MC's percentage of overall military capabilities. That's just part of one of the clauses, and that's going to make sure this group cannot do self-dealing. It has to be a percentage of overall military capabilities. And again, they can designate a certain amount for naval forces or land forces or satellite or nuclear forces. I know I'm not getting into all the categories, but that's not part of what I'm doing. They will get to every category, and they will set up a nice system that the military corporations, the people doing that, making those decisions, will know exactly what type of budget they're going after and who's going after it. So if you're spending a ton of money on one area and it's not being covered enough, another corporation can put some forces over there to get some of that money, to get more forces. And that's the way the military capability will say, I want more forces over for um, for battleships or whatever. And they're going to say we have a higher percentage of our budget going to battleships, and that's going to bring more battleship capabilities into the mix. Other than funding MCs, Sector 9 must fund proportionally to a CRA's and RA's membership. So the military capability system must fund the military by capabilities, but the rest of it, the rating systems and the CRA's overall structure and stuff, that's just done by proportional to their membership. And if you don't understand that, it takes a little bit of thinking to understand what we're trying to do. With the new system, it's always hard to understand when I have it all in my brain. Maybe I'm not explaining everything, but it makes sense. Foreign aid must come out of the Sector 9 budget. So if we want to give money to a foreign country for foreign aid, it has to come out of our military budget. And the people are going to have to make some tough decisions. Do we do it with our own people, or do we fund, let's say, Israel's army to give them more capabilities? I know that's one of them. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's one place we spend some money on right now. So if we spend money over there, that means it's not spending here. And that's very tight budget on what they can and cannot do. We don't just have an open-ended budget. It's very defined to that 5% of GDP, and then 20% of that goes over to escrow. We're probably going to have 10 to 20% just for operating budgets, so we can have good training and stuff like that. There's a lot of things I'm not even thinking of that they will, but to get a good budget. Okay, Military Authorization Agency. Let me just go through the slides so I don't get ahead of myself. The purpose of the MAA sector, Military Authorization Agency, is to authorize everyone with inherent government power within the foreign protection system. So everybody, every diplomat, every commander-in-chief, every person in the military capability system, everybody, even themselves, has to get a 70% vote to be there, every person. So we cannot have anybody off to the extremes. Obviously, liberals and conservatives and libertarians, they're going to have to compromise a little bit so we can field a full military, because what happens if nobody can get 70% to vote because the liberals don't want conservatives in there or conservatives don't want liberals in there? No, we need a military. They're going to compromise, but they're going to weed out the extremists on the outer edges. Okay, every person within sectors, all 5 sectors, including the subcontractors, must swear allegiance to America, the Constitution, the whole 9 yards. I already talked about it. So it's not just the military. I think I have this clause twice because I did it for just the military, because that's the most important, but it's also for the whole system, all 5 sectors. An MAA sector board authorizes with a 70% vote and repeals authorization with a 40% vote. So it needs a 70%. I just talked about that. So these are my 30 sectors again. It's highly understandable. It's highly important to understand that you understand each one of these still have 12 CRAs, or roughly 12 CRAs. 5% and 20% limitations gives you roughly 12. And then most of the 4 sectors will have authorization up at the sector board level. And that's highly important to understand that that's representative, monopoly regulatory system up there. A lot of these things are still going to be shoved down to the responsibility and governing through the CRA. Even if the top level authorities at the sector board level, a lot of this stuff will be still done through CRAs. And even authorities, or let's say military missions, can still be done through the CRA. The CRA will still have a top commander-in-chief for their CRA. And that top commander-in-chief can be, hey, I need you to take care of this one area, or this one set of battles, or whatever, and utilize military services. So it's important to understand how the whole system works. And again, I'm not the one that's going to micromanage all this. This is the top level management or structure of the military. In getting down into the weeds, that's highly important, but that's not my job. That's not the Constitution's job. The Constitution is made to make the overall structure. So let's go down to the last screen here, and please consider a donation for Haley 2024, the movement. Right now I'm doing this all on my own. I would love to have a social media person to come in and work with this. Somebody do some editing and just get this up and running. Advertise these ideas a lot. But I'm going to do a lot more videos on every one of these. My plan is to do about 5 or 6 videos on this alone. I'm concentrating on the military capabilities, concentrating just on the diplomats, concentrating just on the Commander-in-Chief. Every one of these sectors needs a full concentration. And then I'll probably do one where I read all the clauses straight through, and that's going to take about an hour just to read the clauses straight through. Because I think there's like 60-some clauses just within these sectors. And each one deserves well over a minute. But that's why I'm going to break it down as well. So, until the next video.